Okay, we're live. Hello. Hello, welcome to the second live stream on the series of Expressed. Today, it's all about when the dark calls. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that in our systems, there is the parts of us that are known, seen, expressed habitually. I call those the light sides. Then there's places that are a little murky that we maybe know of, and that we tend to maybe push away or suppress or not express freely for whatever reason. And that reason might be very, very wonderful and intelligent. Like, there's a part of you that wants to, murder everybody. You don't express that. Keep it that way, please. And then there's the dark. And the dark is what we almost have no awareness around, but it exists in us. And that is what I want to explore with you today. So I'm live. I'm just going to check. Here we go. If I can have the comments close by. Here we go. So before we dive into it, I just want to say I'm having so much fun. I'm just having so much fun in this week-long event so far. You guys are amazing. Really enjoyed seeing, the parts of you in the dark that you have maybe a tenuous relationship with. I've been enjoying seeing your posts, your descriptions. We did the first Temple of Truth yesterday. It was awesome. So awesome. Thank you. I am having so much fun, and I can see some of you having a lot of fun too, which is freaking phenomenal. So let's get into today's topic. So if we go back to a couple of days ago, where we were looking at how there's this tribal consciousness and this place in us that just really wants to fit in. And then there's the truth and our essential consciousness. And this is our actual truth. And this truth doesn't have to be singular at all. This truth gets to be expressed in different ways depending on what's right in front of you. And so your actual life becomes a total playground. And also that means that wherever you're needing to claim yourself more, express yourself more, live your truth at a higher level, there's nowhere special you need to go. Right in the middle of your life is perfect. Right in the middle of your life is going to be places where you're still tied to that tribal fitting in consciousness. And those are the places where you have an opportunity to pull your energy back, stop investing in fitting in at the sacrifice of your unique truth, and instead invest in your unique truth. Now, what happens more often than not is you fit in and you connect even more when you do that, rather than tell the half-truths or just present the part of you that you feel is acceptable, or even the part of you that is a character that you've created, a mask that you've put on, and that when people criticize that character or that mask, it doesn't hurt so much because you know it's not real. And so that's something a lot of us do also. And it's not honest. It's not. And it's not actually all that fun living that way. Sure, there's a protection there. And I've done this for years myself. But I can tell you the pain of being rejected when you stand for what is true is actually cleaner and purer than being rejected when you're not actually you. Because when you're not actually yourself and not actually expressing that uniqueness that is you in its most precise way, yes, it's easy to distort what you mean, to be misunderstood, and then you have nowhere to stand. Like you've lost yourself in the distortion, plus you've been rejected for it. And that's a really messy, chaotic place. Now, messy and chaotic is not wrong at all. But you, at that time, you really need to walk yourself back. So in my work, I love working with people in that really tender period, a couple of months after a breakup. For some people, quite directly after the breakup. But what happens in relationship often is that we create this reality with the other and find a groove together where certain aspects of you are going to go more expressed and certain aspects are going to go less expressed. And that is natural and normal, and that happens in every single relationship. People you click with on an intellectual level, you're having intellectual conversations. People you click with on a humor level, you're just going to laugh a lot. But that doesn't mean the other aspects of you have to leave. And what we sometimes do in relationships, romantic, sentimental ones, is we attach a little bit more to the parts of us that are expressed in the relationship and forego the other dimensions of ourselves that also need expressing. And so I've long time reflected upon how it can be actually dangerous, the idea of making one person your everything. Not that they shouldn't be a priority. I think it's good when one person is a priority and there's a team and you're in love. Beautiful. But when you start attaching to who you are with them and you start atrophying the other sides of you that come out through different aspects, that's where it's easier to get lost, to go unexpressed. And when we do that for a long enough time, the dark starts calling. And that's a little bit what I want to talk about before I want to finish this sort of breakup thought. So after the breakup, there's this zone of time where you start re-picking up the pieces of who you are, the pieces that you left behind, that you thought had no place in the relationship. And that is a really beautiful time where you get to create more whole, and start again from that place. Meet your life from that whole place again. And when we are whole, and we stand for all that we are, not just parts of us that we like, the creations we get to make are way more potent and full and complex. So, I wonder if you're listening to this live or on the replay, if you can think back to a time where indeed parts of you went down into the shadows of your being and became unexpressed. And, this can be a good thing. Like there's habits that we had, or, the tantruming little you when you were 2 years old that isn't getting expressed anymore. That's probably a good thing. But I'm talking about aspects of you that you feel that maybe you had lost at some point. And so they kind of receded in the background of your being. And then there's this feeling. And it comes with a lot of anxiety, for me anyways, but most people. It's this feeling of the dark inside of us calling. Something wanting to express, but we don't know what it is. And it's dark by its nature of not being known. It's not dark because it's evil. That's really not the equation we're making here. It's just dark because it's receded into where you can no longer see. And this feeling is a little bit like maybe a song stuck inside of you, a dissatisfaction, a sort of grumbling, you get maybe a little bit bored and disengaged with what's around you. And on top of that, there's often an anxiety and an asking of, what is wrong with me? The answer is nothing's wrong with you. It's just the dark is calling. And I want to tie this in with our feminine natures, our feminine cycles. And here, feminine is really an archetype that men also have. But our female bodies tend to express this archetype a little bit more. So, in cultures across the world with mythologies, the feminine often has sort of 3 different faces. There's the maiden, so fresh, innocent, pure, sweet. There's the mother, nurturing, kind, of service. And then there's the crone, wild, mad, destructive, intuitive. And I know this is what needs to be expressed right now, it's what's coming through, but why, I don't know just yet. So I'm in the dark right now. It's the crone energy. I think I want to talk about more because she is the one, in our culture anyway, that tends to get repressed. So the crone, you can think of her as the witch also. The fairy tales, the old woman living in the forest, making potions. That's the crone. And if you think about our whole beauty industry, like terrified of aging, or terrified of presenting that face of the feminine. But she is very alive. She's not going away because we don't want to see her. And in my own meetings with my own inner crone, my own inner witch, and maybe even my own inner wild woman, she is highly, highly, highly intuitive. And she knows the ways of the world, and she listens not so much to the tribal consciousness. She listens not so much to how she needs to fit in, but she's listening to the whispers of wisdom, the whispers of nature. And she is called to express those. And to create something entirely new. And sometimes to destroy the dysfunctional. And so as I'm naming these things, to destroy the dysfunctional, to bring in the new, to shift allegiance to the truth, what I invite you to notice is what stirs inside of you. Because my guess is that part of what is going unexpressed and almost sort of hurts in you is this aspect of the feminine. And if you think of sort of the goddess Kali, she's presented in these 3 ways, and her her crone side, I'm going to call it that, is destructive and scary and terrifying. She wears skulls for a necklace. Like, she is rawr. She's terrifying. And this is often what we put in the shadows, because when it lives in the shadows, and I'm making here a distinction between the shadows and the dark. So the shadows is sort of distorted light, things that we reject, things that we separate from, things that we don't trust in ourselves. And the dark is a little bit more clean and a little bit more precise and a little bit more wise and intentional. Now, when the dark calls, and I've gone through this many times, and it's terrifying every time. I described the feelings of maybe like a restlessness, a boredom, and apathy. And when it's stronger, this is when we get our spectrum, the feminine spectrum of, think of PMS, okay? Raging, wild, irritable, intense, wanting to roar, scream, cry. It feels on the inside, and I'm not inviting you to express these things necessarily. I'm inviting you to here evolve your thinking when you encounter these aspects of yourself to get towards what the purest creation is that is behind it, that wants to like hack away at the jungle and say no to all the bullshit that you encounter, all the things that are not the truth, because I believe we all have a very sensitive radar to what is actually true. And we want to bring it in. It's kind of what we're here for. We're here to experience the whole mess and the whole spectrum, but bringing in the truth, I believe that is something really that we're here for. So I'm just going to take a little pause to see. Yes, okay. Those feelings are often in the way, like they're expressions of a very potent wisdom. And the invitation is exactly not to give in to the rage and just stop there. No, that won't be helpful. And I know that's probably what many of us have gone through. For me, in my early womanhood, 19 years old, 22 years old, I encountered these energies at ends of relationships. And I didn't yet have the discernment and the wisdom and the maturity to go a little bit further and a little bit further. So where I was stopping as a young adult was experiencing this rage and experiencing this crazy making womanhood kind of intensity and madness and high emotions and high volatility and not making much sense. But if I look back now, what was happening is that my feminine body was saying, no more, no, I am done. This is not healthy for me. This is not the truth. This is not what I want to be creating. And had I had the maturity at that time, I would have sort of watched all of that clear and excavate and honor the fact that perhaps those relationships needed to be over. And moreover, not only the relationships, but the part of me that was creating the toxic dynamics in the relationships. At its depth, that's what needed to die. And so I roped in these men to play that drama around with me. But really it was me, with me. I was ready for my next level. I was ready for who I was to become. I was ready for what I was to create. And so I created drama. And I fully forgive myself for that. And I love that I went there. I love that I went there. And I didn't shy away. And that I stopped for a few moments to play the cool girl. Which I also totally am, and is not wrong with girl next door, like chill archetype is totally fine also. And that intensity, that desire to create, that desire to love, that desire to live your highest life also gets to exist. So had I dug and allowed what I call dark goddess to court me, it could have all been a lot cleaner. I could have very softly come to terms with the fact that certain things were done, were dead. I wanted more, I wanted different. And I could have stood by that, and everything could have been a lot cleaner and less messy and less complicated, less hurtful and damaging also. Because here's a way to look at it. This intensity in our wild feminine natures. And if this seems really foreign and really scary to you, that might mean that it really has been hidden in the shadows, and you've kind of built some walls around her. But it might be interesting to look at how much anxiety comes up when I talk about these things, because she might be at the root of your anxiety. And what I've noticed is when the wild feminine is finally allowed to speak, be expressed in her pure way, anxiety has a tendency to completely abate and leave. And this is an iterative process. So, the dark feminine. This is a stream of consciousness. I invited women in this challenge, but I'm curious if men are attuned to this as well. And my guess is that they are, and simply aren't versed yet in this side of their beings, and that's okay. But I wanted to come back to this potency of the wild feminine, the crone, the witch, the intuitive badass. When that energy is not corralled, not understood, not honored, respected for its power, it is a dangerous energy. That destruction force might raise the ground of your whole life, when your whole life doesn't need to be raised. But a woman in pain can go there. And so the invitation is to honor and respect and bow down to and listen for and to the wisdom behind that intensity. And so with that, I offer a reinterpretation of the cliche where men say to women, you're too intense, you're too much, you feel too big. On the current level of understanding of most of us, there's an impulse to interpret the masculine and men as trying to control or not understand or not respect or not honor the wild feminine in us. And also, we're in the blind as much as they are in the blind around this darkness in us. And there's another interpretation. The masculine, which we have in ourselves as well, but often will be expressed through one partner. And this doesn't have to mean that the partner is the female-bodied and the masculine-bodied one. This applies in every human. This plays in every human. So the other interpretation is that the masculine is a sort of structure, a structuring energy, a containing energy, a protecting energy. And at its most honorable, it may provide the container for the wild feminine to rage and to do what she needs to do to come to the precision of the creation that needs to happen. The precision of what needs to be destructed, what needs to be created, what needs to be built. And so there's something really actually beautiful about the masculine energy also, that really at its best works with the feminine wild. And so next time you judge any men for trying to hold boundaries, think of it as trying to hold a container, holding a container for the wild. And this applies within you as well. It applies within you big time. Your inner masculine can hold a container, can love on the feminine who goes in search of her dark, her creative potency, without it wreaking havoc everywhere around her. So let me pause there. It's intense for a Wednesday morning. As we move into fall, I really felt called to name these energies. Every fall, I feel the witch's cauldron starting up again. In me, in my students. If you're in Reiki 3, I love doing Reiki 3 in the fall. There's a little bit of this going on. Soft and true this fall is going to, I feel it very much be about this wild, sacred, feminine. And here's another piece. So as I kind of pause, I'd love to hear just who's here, what's coming up for you, what is stirring in your own witch's cauldron. I know for a lot of you, your desire of expression is about sacred sexuality and your intuition. And so we're talking about that. I haven't used those words much, but this is, make no mistake, this is that. So who's here? So let me tie this in to soft and true. Okay, so when the dark calls, it can feel like this, wow, right? This is something wanting to rip out like a dragon spitting fire. And when that's imprecise, then we get the destructive archetype of the feminine, and not precise and wild and crazy, a crazy one. But the invitation here is to not stop there. And so to live our lives in a creative way, but that is also soft. And so the softness is reinviting the maiden sweetness, innocence, awe, love, the mother's nurturing, kindness. And this is developed in you. I know that, most of you. And bringing in that crone energy now allows for a feminine leadership that is soft and true, and honors and respects others, as well as holds the line and holds the boundaries and invites for higher standards to be met, and for us to create a new world that is respectful of all of life. Remember, the crone, she listens to the wind and to the murmurs in the ground and the rush of the river. She's attuned to the laws of nature. She stands for nature. She stands for all that is. And this is what we need. We need that leadership, and we need it soft and true. The soft allows it also to be received as invitations, which they are. We cannot control anybody. We cannot force anybody. We can't do any of that. So I'm going to stop here for today. I don't see any comments. And for those of you at the Temple of Truth session, the link is already posted. I've tagged you if you're signed up. And I will see you in about 10 minutes. 12 minutes. 11 minutes. And if you if you have, maybe brush your teeth, do whatever you need to do, but I invite you to actually put on a song that wakes up your creative spirit, and dance to it. See you very soon.